Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at ThunderWizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at ThunderWizard.com. Get ready, because here I come. Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and yes indeed we are coming to the age of the human being. You say to yourself, I'm already a human being. What are you talking about? Well, you have the body of a human being, but the real question is, are you operating from your full potential? As a human being, as a mom, as divine mind in human flesh. Do you have this? Have you achieved this? The opening little video there about awaken to your true potential, there's really only one thing that we can do to awaken the Dr. Manhattan within us. And that is using our powers of meditation, whether that be through Qigong, energy work, whether it be done with emptiness meditation, whether it be done with yoga, whether it's shamanism. And by shamanism, I don't mean the modern definition of shamanism, which is tripping out on hallucinogens. I mean shamanism where you take shamanic journeys, use the power of sound to allow you to shift into your energy body, and you can travel with your energy body to different states of being. So we are going to be, whoops, I see that I'm missing one of my little things here. We are going to be talking about that today, and I have a link that I've put in both the description and in the chat here. And if you're watching this video after I've live streamed it, you can pause and go and watch that video. Because that individual talks about the age of the human being. Now, I remember watching that video. That video is, which of course would have been a film by that time. That video is 30, 40 years old by now. And I was first introduced to that concept. This was one of the videos that I watched that introduced me to the concept of the Hopi prophecy. The Hopi prophecy that talks about the emergence of the four races. And I talk about that in at least one of my books. If you haven't read my books, by the way, you watch my channel. You're subscribed to my channel, but you haven't read my books. There's a reason why I get annoyed with people who ask questions and obviously haven't read my books. So you can go to courses.thunderwizard.com to see my books, or you can go onto Amazon.com and type in Michael William Denny. You can go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and see my books there. You can also put the time and effort to go onto the channel, go to the playlists, and you can find the different books that I have read. You don't want to pay the $10 to get the book? Fine, I read it for you for free. So I do recommend that people spend some time to make use of this library, because this is a library. I don't know how many videos do we have on here? 1,500 videos on here now? But this concept of the four races and the origin of humankind and the Hopi prophecy, I find very empowering. So let me be very clear. I don't equate Hopi prophecy with every other Native American prophecy or belief, because they're not the same. And there's thousands of different Native American tribes and religions. But I do recognize, in my personal opinion, I recognize at least what I know of the Hopi understanding of the history of the planet. I do treat them as the elders. And as I understand it, many tribes consider the Hopis elders. And that they hold on to they're wisdom carriers from the ancient traditions. I hold that to be true for my ancestral teachings, those who, the people who brought forth the understanding of Odin, and the teachings that are associated with the pre-Christian teachings of my ancestors. I hold the same regard towards the Taoists, towards the Vedics. Any case, go ahead and watch that video. Now, on that video, I remember watching that and learning about the four races, and I found it to be accurate, which, if you don't know what that means, it means that at the beginning of the dispersal of the human race, which has to be at least 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years ago, the human race had gone through a tremendous challenge in terms of being able to survive on this planet. In fact, if we go back about 100,000 years, there's only a small number of human beings, modern human beings, or our ancestors. There were so many climate shifts and changes that there was so many different species of bipedal hominid, which is what we are, human type beings that walk around on two legs. There was a bunch of them, and they all died out because they were too specific for their environment. And when the environments changed, they didn't have the ability to adapt, and so they died out. Human beings, or the ancestors of human beings, adapted, and what gave them the ability to adapt was this. They didn't focus so much on the physical characteristics, being super big or super strong or super fast. They focused on being smart and being able to make tools and adapt. And we almost died out as a species about 100,000 years ago. And this was down in southeastern Africa, if I understand it. And then we developed a bunch of different strategies, which is adaptability. We learned to adapt to our environment. And we evolved a bunch of physical and mental strategies that allowed us to survive as a species. And then we started to spread all over the planet. That was about 50,000 years ago. And so according to the Hopi tradition, the way they look at it, they say that the Great Spirit brought together the four clans of human beings. And the four clans were associated with the four elements. Actually, there are 5 elements, and now I finally understand why there's only 4 elements. I'm going to save that for another video, because the 5th element is coming in terms of race of people. But I'm going to save that for another video. But the 4 elements would have been wind, water, fire, and earth. And each one of the human beings were split up into 4 clans. And so the Great Spirit brought all the humans together and said, I'm going to send you off into different directions all over the globe, and you are going to master your element. And then when you've mastered all of your, each of you have mastered your element, you're going to come back together. And if you remember who you are, then when you come back together, you will create a heaven on earth. And if you don't remember who you are, then it will cause all kinds of serious problems. But what he talked about when I first heard this, which must have been 30 years ago, and I heard this gentleman talking about the age of the human being, and he was likening the age of the human being to an age of enlightenment, where human beings achieve their highest potential, which is one of great spiritual power. And so, you know, we think about ourselves, but I'm already a human being. But truth is, when you look at human beings, yeah, we've accomplished a lot, seemingly a lot technologically, but we act like animals. We're predators. We chase after and eat other animals. We fight with each other. We're extremely violent. We're homicidal. We're really not that different from any other great apes, you know, especially the apes that we're most close to, which would be chimpanzees. We're only, depending on who you talk to, anywhere between 0.5% to 2% difference in our DNA. So we're really just, we're chimpanzees, and we act like it. We're tribal. We're violent. We predate on other species. You know, all the stuff associated. And animals are like this as well. I mean, we love our dogs, but if you leave dogs to themselves, they will create packs, and they're incredibly cruel to each other, you know, and they dominate and fight with each other. And, you know, this is the animal kingdom operating from that reptilian brainstem of fight or flight. You either want to eat it, fuck it, or run away from it. You know, those are really the only things that animals do. And so we're still in the tail end of the animal age, according to him. Excuse me. And so when we enter the age of the human being, then all of our latent capacities, which are magical, excuse me. Sorry, I touched my nose, and you know how sometimes that just creates a sneezing frenzy? All right. So the reason why this also struck me is because back then I didn't understand what the original meaning for the word human being was in the ancient Germanic tongue, which is, we use it today, the word man, which in modern times equals the word man in modern times equals male adult human. But the word man in ancient times equaled mind. So again, if you have read my books or watched my videos, you know that there is a difference between your mind and your brain. Let me be very clear. Your brain is a wonderful thing. Without it, you can't function. That is true. But your brain is the hardware. It is a computer. It is a computer made up of flesh and bones. Not bones, sorry. Flesh and blood and neurons and all that kind of stuff. But it's not where you reside. Your consciousness is not in your brain. Scientific tests have proven this. That when it comes to, for instance, one experiment I heard of was trying to figure out how long it takes from a thought going on in the brain to moving. So in other words, you know, they tell somebody, you know, they've got electrodes on the person's brain, and they tell the person to pick up a pencil. They'll go and pick up the pencil, and after they've picked up the pencil, the brain will fire. So the thought will register in the brain after the person has picked up the pencil. So the assumption going into the experiment is that thought in the brain creates movement in the body. And so when you know what if they wanted to find out what's the time differential between thought and action. And they found that action preceded thought, which means that the brain is not the part of you that initiates your intention or your actions. It comes from somewhere else. The brain only records it after the fact. I've shared this as well. I share it all the time because it's a very powerful explanation of this. Another experiment I heard of, which had to do with same kind of thing. They were working with people that had a severed corpus callosum. A corpus callosum, we all have one, unless yours is severed for some reason. But you have two halves of your brain. You have your right and your left side of the brain, and they do different things, as you know. And then there is this small bundle of nerves that connects between the two brains so that they can communicate with each other. And when that gets severed, that's called the corpus callosum, they wanted to see what that had to do with thought and action. And so they'd whisper in somebody's left ear, go walk across the room and sit in that chair. And the person would get up and go and walk across the room, and then they'd ask the right ear, why did you sit in the chair? And the right brain would say, because it was too bright over here, or something like that. The brain would make up an excuse to justify the action that it took. So your brain is not where you live, and your brain does not make decisions for you. Your brain is a computer that allows your multi-dimensional soul, which lives beyond space and time, which is infinite. Your soul needs to interface with limited four-dimensional reality. Three dimensions plus time is 4 dimensions. The soul is beyond these 4 dimensions, and so it needs this human interface. It's an avatar. The movie Avatar is a perfect example, where somebody's consciousness is relayed into a body, and the person has this experience, that they're running around in this body, but reality their actual person is in some chamber somewhere, sending information somehow, some way, who knows what. But that's what's happening here. Your soul is in this physical body, and in order for it to experience 4-dimensional reality, it has to have sensory input. It has to have these eyeballs, which takes light and color, and then the brain creates shapes out of that. It needs your ears, which takes sound waves and turns sound into something that it can understand. It's got these nasal passages that give you scent and all of that, and the mouth and the taste, and then you've got neurons and nerves and all of that. This is all sensory input from the hardware that then goes into your soul. The brain takes information and then puts it in a 4-dimensional package so that your soul can experience it. But that is not your mind. And the human being is mind. And mind does not mean intellect. It means the ability to reflect the spirit. Because mind and moon are the same word. Mind and moon are the same word. Mind is associated with emotions. So emotions are things that are beyond the brain. Somebody asked me a question today about that, about emotions in the brain. Again, the brain records things. It doesn't create things. It records things. In order for us to continue to have this illusion of living in 4 dimensions, We have to give our brain the credit. So our brain thinks that it understands, it creates, it makes all the decisions. And we allow ourselves to believe that, because then that gives us the experience of living in 4 dimensions, and we buy it. But whenever you do any deep spiritual practice that involves the meditative mind, and the mind is about meditation, the intellect is the brain thinking things through, adding 2 + 2 = 4. You have to drive your car on the right side of the street. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. All of these 3-dimensional things, the intellect processes that. But the mind is also beyond space-time. With your meditative mind, you can reflect the spirit, which is what the moon does. That's the reason why mind and moon mean the same thing originally. It's the same word. Because the mind does the same thing that the moon does. The moon reflects the sun. The sun is symbolic of the soul. And the mind reflects that. The way that we are able to tap into the soul is through the mind. The way that we use the mind is through meditation. We can access the mind through artistic abilities as well, whether that's singing or painting, and sports as well. Nobody becomes a genius at sports without having a very powerful meditative mind, whether they realize it or not. Man, the age of human being means the age of the physical human being becoming divine mind. And what we are coming to find out is that human beings have barely scratched the surface. Even the most advanced spiritual beings on the planet, even the Dr. Manhattans of history, have just begun to scratch the surface of the power of the mind, the power of meditation. So what the Hopis are talking about is that we are now in this phase where we are shifting. And all of the world and all of the animals are shifting with us. I know it seems really cute and maybe strange and petty to you that I'm really enjoying these YouTube channels with these animals, dogs and cats, that go up and they talk with their owners. There are these, people buy these, these inexpensive buttons, these big buttons, and you can record a word onto it so that when you press the button, it says a word. And people are training their dogs and their cats to speak, to communicate, in-depth conversations. Of course, it's on lower level. It's sort of like talking to a 5 or a 6-year-old, but it has the depth of understanding to have a full conversation with you. And I was watching one video of this, one of these dogs that has been trained to do that, I guess, since he was a puppy. And the owner was able to get the dog to actually do its best to speak like human words. Say thank you, and the dog would say thank you. Say I love you. I love you. I mean, a dog doesn't have the ability, but it's clear that the dog knows what the word means and is repeating them. And if the dog could, the dog would form sentences. And I know this sounds strange to you, but I've been on this planet a while, and that is something that wouldn't have happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It wouldn't have even entered our minds. We've thought of our animals as being dumb, stupid animals that understood, come here, go outside, drop it, good dog, bad dog. I mean, cats, we didn't even bother trying to communicate with cats. We just considered, it's probably still true, cats are not even considered property. If somebody runs over your dog, they have to pay you. I don't know if you know this. This is a law on the books. If somebody runs over your cat, well, tough shit. A cat is a wild animal. They're not even considered pets. But, I'm watching these videos of cats having full conversations with their owners. And the reason why it impacts me is because it shows me that everything is lifting up to the next level. It tells me that animals are going to evolve speech soon. It may take thousands of years, but I think it's going to happen. It means that human beings are moving. The animals are going to move up to the human realm where we are. And we're going to move up to the next realm, which is going to be beyond our understanding, where we no longer need physical things to function, where we no longer need to use language to communicate, where we can use our meditative mind to go anywhere in the universe, do anything we want, achieve anything. We will literally become gods. This is the age that we are coming into. So, as you can guess, what I'm saying is that it's incredibly important that we all begin to meditate on a daily basis. Because if this shift is coming, and it seems to be coming very quickly, and it's going to be a drastic shift, it's not going to be a subtle or slow shift. It's going to be a major shift. And as we see in evolution, this is the way evolution always is. We look at the evolutionary record, we don't have something that slowly shifts into another level. It's usually there's these big shifts that happen, and they often happen in tandem with extinction ending events, where the old type of animal like the dinosaurs gets wiped away. And what is now, I'm sure you may know this, but every time you see a bird, you're looking at a dinosaur. Birds are dinosaurs. They've evolved. They used to be these big things that lumbered around on the earth, and now they've taken flight. They live in the air. And so they had that, dinosaurs had that huge shift. They became something far beyond what they were before. And human beings are finally coming to that level where we are, according to Western understanding, we're entering the age of Aquarius. According to the Vedic understanding, we've come out of the Kali Yuga and we entered into the Dvapara Yuga. According to the Hopis, we're entering into the age of the human being, which means the age of divine mind in human flesh. All these prophecies are coming true. And I have to tell you that when I first heard this, I discounted it. I mean, I didn't even remember that he had said that. When I watched it again recently, I went, oh, that's right. Because every time I heard somebody talk about we're entering the age of Aquarius, we're entering, we're leaving Kali Yuga, I'm sure when I heard him say we're entering the age of the human being, I didn't pay any attention to it because the truth is I didn't believe it. Based on what I saw and what I was experiencing and what was going on with the human race, I didn't believe it. But I absolutely believe it now, based on all kinds of things that I've been experiencing. And you guys have seen a huge shift in my understanding. And as sad and traumatic as it is that it is actually true that we live in a world where there are a small, very powerful elite who have all the money, who there's a core of them that practice and know tremendous powers of mind, and we could call them black sorcerers or magicians. The Zuni people call them the dark force people. And I like that because that's exactly what we've got in the symbolism of the Star Wars movies with people who follow the dark side of the Force. Incredibly powerful. My Mao Shan teachers said the same thing. Said we don't share this with everybody because If you find somebody that has the combination of they have enough discipline, they can tolerate the challenges of this energy, and they're not spiritual, then they can become Darth Vaders. And they were dead serious about it. And now we know for a fact that we live in a world where there are a bunch of Darth Vaders. You know, I don't know how many there are, but there's a core group of them that have access to very powerful spiritual technologies, very powerful physical technologies that they use their dark spiritual forces to use that technology to keep us in the dark and keep us in dark ages while they use the abilities that human beings are all supposed to have, and they use them only to keep themselves, narcissistically supplied with money and power and control. But all of that is coming to an end. I don't know if it's going to be today or tomorrow or a year from now or 5 years from now, but it's going to be soon. And so right now, what we need to do to get ready for this is that we need to make meditation the priority in our life. Your meditative power, your ability to go into your meditative state of mind. And it's a muscle like anything else. It takes practice. You can't, people, if we were to magically enter into this, to the age of the human being, the people who didn't have meditative powers would be at a loss. They would have to catch up. So if you want to make that shift and get the most out of this shift that's coming, I recommend that you make meditation your primary focus in life. Doesn't mean you can't do other things, but I recommend, as I always have, that people meditate on a daily basis. Now, by meditation, I want to be clear what I mean by that. I don't mean the stereotypical meditation, which is, by the way, a misunderstanding, because meditation is not emptying your mind. That is not meditation. That is the goal. That is, actually, that's not even right either. It is the result. When you do any kind of meditative practice accurately, the end result will be that you will experience a stillness of mind. That's the result. So you have mantra meditation, you have visualization, you have energy work. I think everybody should do energy work. Anybody who's a meditator, my opinion, you should do energy work followed by meditation, because energy work speeds up the process. I mean, by hundreds or thousands of times. I shared this in the last video where the Chinese Buddhists, the Shaolin, the Chinese Buddhists, the Chan Buddhists, Shaolin, we don't really associate, we associate Shaolin with Kung Fu and martial arts, but actually the Shaolin, the original Shaolin, was just a monastic order of Chan Buddhists who spent their, as much time as possible in emptiness meditation, where they would just get in meditation and try and empty their minds. But we look at them now, and there's a folklore that they have, which is actually not accurate, about an actual person named Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma was a Buddhist missionary, because Buddhism, like Christianity, was a missionary religion. People went around preaching Buddhism and teaching meditation and things like that. And Bodhidharma was an East Indian who traveled into China, and he taught Buddhism. And so the Chinese Buddhist converts created these monasteries, and they would sit around and they would meditate. They would try and empty their mind. But because they didn't do any energy work, their body would get sick. Their energy would get stagnant, and they would get sick. And so they called on the indigenous shamans of the Chinese culture, which were the Taoists. And as you know, Taoism is a very meditative culture, but it's also deeply entrenched with energy work. And so the Taoist doctors would come and they would say, you need to get your energy moving. And they taught them the 5-element, the same thing that I teach you here. They taught them the 5 elements and how to use the 5-element postures, the 5-element sounds. They taught them standing postures. They taught them Qigong. In fact, a lot of the original Shaolin Kung Fu was based on Taoist, standing postures and movements and Qigong and things like that. And so because it was a religion instead of a spiritual practice, as a spiritual practice, I have a lot of respect for Buddhism and Chan Buddhism and Shaolin. But when it comes to organized religion, I'm going to tell you what it is. But because it was a religion, and Buddhism in general does this, Tibetan Buddhism did this. They took tantric Vedic meditations and mantras, and they just changed the names around and called them, Buddhas. And they were really talking about Vedic deities, but they had to turn them into Buddhas because you can only worship the Buddha. Again, that religion coming through. So these Shaolin guys came up with this legend that's not true, that this guy named Damo or Bodhidharma went into a cave to try and figure out how to fix all these energy problems and came out with the 5-element theory, which of course is nonsense because we know that the 5-element theory is Taoist. It's not Buddhist. At least the 5 elements that are practiced in China. Anyway, I digress. But I do believe the point of that story is that energy practice, I believe, is essential. So Qigong, any real energy work is essential. Now, when you get into high-level energy practice, which is everything that I'm teaching up here and courses.thunderwizard.com, the high-level energy practices will literally evolve your meditative mind hundreds, if not thousands of times. When you combine energy work with mantra, we're talking hundreds of thousands of times. You are pushing the envelope of evolution incredibly fast. So this is why I teach what I teach. I've been doing this for 30, 40 years. And in that time, my goal has been to find the most effective practices that will bring the most powerful end result, which is, again, the result of meditation is to bring you that state of emptiness, which is really not emptiness. What that state of emptiness is, if you truly achieve it, is you are connected to the quantum field. You are connected to all times. You are connected to everything. You are connected to every being, every entity. You become everything. You become everything because everything is energy. The universe is a quantum field of energy, conscious energy. And the whole point of the mind is a portal for you as an individual to become infinite. Even if it's for a brief period of time during your meditative or shamanic practices. But that has always been the goal. And unfortunately, we have been diverted from that goal for the past 2,000 years. 2,000 years, we chose to get wrapped up in lower negative vibratory, empire building nonsense, which took us away from the Man. My ancestors called human beings divine mind. This is why Odin became king of the gods. Odin became king of the gods because of his meditative powers. Odin is the only one of the gods that can travel to any one of the 9 dimensions and be in all 9 dimensions instantaneously. This is the symbolism of Odin riding his horse, which has 8 legs. His 8 legs are the 8 external dimensions where he is in the middle. He is in the middle dimension, which is, has all the legs that go out into all of the other 8 dimensions. Odin is the one who brings all of 9 dimensions together, which means that he lives simultaneously in all dimensions. He cannot do that if he was not a master meditator, a master shaman. So, I bring this to your attention. It's much more than what even I have been teaching up until recently. I've been one of these people on YouTube saying, if you practice spiritual things, if you practice energy work, and if you practice meditation, your life will be better and you will be happier. But there's this undercurrent of assumption that it's optional. It's sort of like, do you want to take vitamin C or not? It's sort of optional. And then, of course, nowadays, everybody has to be taking vitamin C and vitamin D, to save your life. In some cases, it saves your life. Meditation can save your life because there is coming a time very soon where the primary essence of human beings is that they are beings, they are walking portals of infinity. That they are vessels of that meditative power. And the more you meditate, the more power you achieve. When you are able to tap into that quantum field, you are able to download and transmit and channel the entire universe. Infinite power. This is where human beings are headed. And I could launch into other things I've been talking about, but I won't. We'll leave it at that. So I left the link for you to listen to yourself. But I'm probably gonna sound more what's the word I'm looking for? More dogmatic, because instead of saying something like, meditation is good for you. Meditation is a good option. Meditation is healthy for you. Everybody should meditate. It reduces stress. And no, this is going to be a requirement. In order to evolve to the next level, human beings will have to be masters of meditation. They will have to operate from mind. So right now we operate from the intellect and from our physical urges, our physical animal urges. Where what will happen is we human beings will operate from our eternal mind that accesses and reflects the infinite soul, the infinite spirit, the quantum field, which again is a field of energy that is conscious. That is the essence of the universe, conscious energy. All right, having said that, I will now open it up for questions if you have any. Again, question is you want to ask me something that you don't know the answer to that you think I do, or you can share your honest feelings, and of course, please write question or feeling in all caps so that I see it. Thundra says hello. And she is one of my astrologers, and she has her own shamanic practices and services as well. You can check her out at thundra.thunderwizard.com, thundra.thunderwizard.com. And we also have vincent.thunderwizard.com. You can check him out. He's also known as Gebo the Shaman, and he has his own YouTube channel, and he has his own services as well. Go check him out, vincent.thunderwizard.com. If you want me to do for you what I just did for them, you can go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com, lockdown.thunderwizard.com. If you purchase that training and you pass it and you come on here, I will, and of course you have to say hello and remind me that you've got that. I will I will advertise your website on this live stream. All right, so let's see. Looking for the questions here. So let's see. That's not a question. Jedi Black Knight. That's not a question either. I don't see any questions. Jedi Black Knight has a question. Jedi Black Knight question. I know the Maoshan wood set and imperfectly know the metal set, but yet to learn the others. Would it be okay to do the wood set for 15 to 20 minutes followed by the 3-1s technique? Yeah. I was going to say this. We're going to keep it in another video. I'll save it for another video because it's going to be rather revolutionary. And I think for some people it's going to be kind of challenging to hear. But it's always bothered me that the Hopi mythology only has 4 elements in the human race. There was only 4 clans because there's 5 elements. This is reflected in modern Western magic, which gets confused. Is ether an element, or is it the basis of the elements? Is it the spirit? They get confused because they don't truly understand what elements are. Modern Western magic. The Taoists understood it. The Vedics understood that there were 5 elements. But of the 5 elements, ether or wood is the precursor. It is an element because in the Chinese understanding, the Taoist understanding, element doesn't mean, we take the word element from the Greek philosophers, and they looked at the elements, but they meant it in like a physical sense, like the physical building blocks of the universe. So we put that word, the 5 elements, but that's not what it translates as. In Taoism, 5 elements is the 5 phases. It means that there is one energy that goes through 5 different phases. It phases from one to the other. And this is something, again, that I teach in, if you haven't read the books, the Thunder Shamanism, go read that book or watch the videos about it. And when we work with the thunder wheel, the 5 elements go in a clockwise fashion, depending on which version of it you use. But the idea is that there is just this conscious energy, and this conscious energy then manifests in 4D space-time. When it manifests, it goes through phases. The first phase is ether. So ether is a physical manifestation of the quantum field, but it is not yet manifested in anything. So we experience it as pure spirit energy. So you could call wood element the ether element or the spirit element. Those would be accurate because that's what you tap into. So you're asking me, can I do the wood element followed by the 3-1s meditation? And the answer is yes, you can. Because the wood element is, there are 2 elements that if you want to do them by themselves, you can. I recommend that you do all 5. But if you want to do, just one element, you can either do the wood element or you can do the earth element. Because the wood element has all of the elements in it, and all of the elements come from wood or ether, and the earth has all of the elements within it. So by the time you get to earth swallows up all of the elements. So by doing earth, you have all of the elements that you can connect with. If you do wood, you're also stimulating all of the elements as well. But I recommend you go wood, metal, fire, water, earth. Having said that, yes, you can do that. And that the wood element, the wood posture, those are very powerful ways to just stimulate the quantum field energy. What else? Dennis Gilmore. So was it yesterday that you and I got into it about Christianity? Was that you? That I got kind of kind of perturbed by, because you were wanting to push your Christian agenda on here. You say, question, can the Darth Vader globalists come back to the light side as Anakin did in the end? Yeah, of course they can. I mean, it's an illusion that people aren't. It's an illusion. Everybody can. They'd have to do a lot of work. You know, the truth is that the dark force people are narcissists. They're sociopaths. And, you know, if I throw out the word narcissist or sociopath, the average person just immediately goes to the word, they're evil, they're bad people. And the things that they do are evil and bad and extremely destructive. But they're very sick. They're emotionally and spiritually very sick. And they're in a tremendous amount of pain. You know, the Star Wars symbology is accurate. I mean, Darth Vader, you know, he can't, as powerful as he is, he has to interface, you know, he has to have a rebreather and he has to have, you know, all that. Without that stuff, he would die. You know, and then in the later videos, you know, the evil emperor, whatever his name, is, you know, at the very end, he's actually like a corpse that's tied up to something, and he can't function. He's looking for a new body to inhabit. And that is very accurate, because on an emotional, psychological level, sociopaths are in tremendous pain, horrific amounts of pain. And that's why they're so destructive. That's why they have no empathy. They have no empathy because they are completely, totally distracted to the point where that's all they can see and experience is their own isolation and their own horrific emotional, spiritual, and psychological pain. So they would have to do a lot of work. And, you know, this is the thing about mental illness. When we get in that kind of mental illness, those cluster B mental illnesses, these are people who, the truth is, if they had the ability to tolerate their pain and they took actions, you know, conscious, loving actions, which again is what spirituality is about. That's what Buddhism is about. That's what the 12 steps are about. That's what Taoism is about. That's what Christianity pretends to be about. Is about, you know, taking positive actions regardless of your feelings. That when you do that, that shifts your perception of things, and it shifts, you know, as a result, the neurons of the brain. So, but the pain that these mentally ill people experience is so horrific that their experience is that it's intolerable. Truth is, they can do it, they just don't know that. In fact, there's a psychologist on YouTube, Dr. Sam Vaknin, who himself is an admitted narcissist. He you know, admits that he has this mental illness, and he talks about that there have been studies that narcissists cannot be cured; they cannot recover, and it's not that they can't start the process, because there are narcissists, sociopaths, people who don't have empathy, who actually try to get better. And they start to take actions which would lead them towards a healthy mind if they continued it. But at some point, they come to the conclusion that they can't do it. There's something about that mental illness that tells them that they're not accomplishing anything or they can't do it. And they stop. But the truth is, if they kept doing it regardless of how they felt, they would heal. They would recover. And so to answer your question, yes, they can, but they probably won't. They probably won't. They will have to, you know, the truth is also is this is also true with narcissists and sociopaths. Narcissists and sociopaths cannot survive without what's called narcissistic supply, which are people. And codependence is when people choose to knuckle under and give the narcissistic or the sociopathic person their demands in a futile attempt to get their love and acceptance, which is what we do. I was just thinking about this today. I'm going to be 59 in, what is it, 3 or 4 months. I'm pushing 60. Let's face it, I'm getting old. And, as has, like many of you and like many other people, I have my own egotistical things. And so sometimes I find myself feeling badly because I didn't achieve this or I didn't achieve that. And realizing, that the time for me to go and make my name in the world is long past. It's now time to enjoy the work that I've done and, start sailing towards my golden years. I found myself, without realizing it, feeling bad that I hadn't done more, achieved more, blah, blah, blah. And then realizing that it was all nonsense. It's all nonsense. It's all meaningless. And I forgot where I was going with this. But once again, reminding myself that the only thing that I need to do is to exist. And if I exist, that's all that's necessary for me to be loved by the universe. That's it. I just exist. There's nothing more that I need to do. Anyway, again, I was making a point and I forgot what it was. Maybe the question will get me back in. No, I can't remember the question. Anyway, hopefully I answered your question. Atham Animist, good to see you, my friend. He says, honest feeling. I feel as though I've been trapped in a cage and wondering how I can break free. I feel courageous. Good for you. I appreciate that feeling. I share that. Thundra, question. When it comes to contact and building a relationship with ET beings, how do you think the law of Gebo comes into play? It's a good question. Very good question. I can't speak for them, obviously. And they're a tremendous mystery to me. I'm extremely intrigued by them. And I am so absolutely thrilled, beyond words, to come to the conclusion that our extraterrestrial family is living in that spiritual unity that we as humans hope for but have never accomplished. This is why, even I make fun of the New Age love and light people. I make fun of them because many of them are actually in denial, and they're in so much pain that they deny and pretend that they are just full of love and light, and then they carry that religious kind of, the judgment of, oh, well, you're not as spiritual as me. You're not full of love and light like me. Like Christians do. What's that word? Anyway, but the truth is, they're on the right track, which is that. The ideal is to live in a society where there is nothing but love. Nothing but love and acceptance and unconditional love and acceptance of everybody. And I am absolutely thrilled to know that beings that are more advanced than us, that they cannot become advanced if that isn't achieved. That the first level of advanced civilization is unconditional love and acceptance of everybody and everything. Then that gives you the ability to meditate. Because you can't meditate unless you operate from the heart center. The heart center is about love. Now, many of you may not know that. You open up your heart center, a lot of pain comes up, a lot of trauma, a lot of impatience, a lot of judgment. These are things that are signs of an immature traumatized heart center, which most humans are traumatized. Being a human being is traumatic. That's why, when human beings are born, the first thing they do is they scream cry. Oh my God, where the hell am I? What is this place? This is a very traumatic place to be because, we're a bunch of animals. And some species of animal eat their young. It's a challenging place to be. So how does the law of Gebo come into play? Well, if you're talking about the CE5 having contact with aliens, there must be something they're getting out of it. I can make guesses, as anybody else can, that, they see themselves in us. They see our infinite soul that's quantum enfolded within us. They see that within us, and they know that our evolution is their evolution, because this is the elves, by the way. This is how the elves function. Whenever you face the Northwest and you work with the elves, you will always, every time, get a message from them, which will include something that you can do that will benefit you, that will help you. And you will also simultaneously be shown how that self-empowerment creates waves that also help everybody else. So they understand that their own continued evolution is dependent on all conscious beings becoming more evolved. So that's got to be the first part of it. I was just thinking about this, before we came on, and that, the truth of the matter is that they're holding all the cards in terms of what happens during the experience. The only power we have, as far as I can tell, is we can act in ways or vibrate in ways that will either stop the experience for us, or will make them, for whatever reason, not want to engage. Which it reminds me of, the people, like when people come on my channel and they're abusive, I just block them now. Because they're a waste of my energy. And I have no interest in being pulled into somebody's negativity. I have no time for it anymore. And I think they're like that. They don't waste their time with any negativity. And they don't interact because there's just, not because, they have any negative feelings towards that individual. It's just there's nothing to be gained. But there's clearly people who, you have two people, and one person will be having an experience, being able to see or feel or hear, manifestations of extraterrestrials, and the person next to them will literally not see or feel anything. And it'll be because, their attitude is one of, disbelief or fear. And that in and of itself has the power to close you off from, other kinds of vibrations. So, you're asking, what did they get out of it? So I don't know, but I think it's, I think that there's some basic things, and I don't know, but yeah, they're a tremendous mystery. And the thing that I like about the CE5 experiences, the thing that I like about it the most is that they're not interested in bringing any attention to themselves. And any time that they do bring attention to themselves, it's always anonymous. Like you'll see a craft, or you'll see lights or orbs, or you'll have an experience. But it won't be because, like Moses is standing there and Moses is the lawgiver, or Jesus the Savior. All of those things bring attention to, you have to worship Jesus, or, Moses, or even Buddha, That's why I love that phrase in Buddhism: if you see Buddha by the side of the road, kill him. Because if you did see, number one, Buddha wasn't a perfect person by any stretch of the imagination. They've mythologized him and turned him into something he wasn't. He actually died of horrific physical illnesses. He ate meat. He was not this perfected, shining being who floated wherever he went. He was as human as they come. But assuming that he was, if he did perfect himself and shone like the sun and was like Rama or Shiva or Vishnu or something, if Buddha was like that and you were to see him, you would stop all of your practices to empower yourself and you would worship him. And Buddhists, will say that's going to get, the whole point of the Buddha was to help you become like he is. You can't do that if he's there. When I teach spirit fighting, I haven't taught any spirit fighting classes in a while, but when I teach physical classes, the first thing that I do is I find somebody that I can put as the senior student. And the reason I do that is because, number one, it's good for them to learn, but number two is that for the most part, if I'm working with somebody who's brand new, from their perspective, they can't, it's just so hard for them to try and do all the little things that I'm doing. And it's better for them to have somebody that's closer to their ability, who they can teach them much better than I can. Because for me, and so that's the same kind of idea, is that the experiences that I've seen in the CE5 contact and the tiny little experience that I have in it, is that it's really all for me. And I don't know who I'm dealing with. I don't see them. They're not, they don't, at least in the beginning, they don't show you who you are. It's all about an experience that you have. But the thing about it that I like is that the CE5 protocols is completely dependent on you using your meditative abilities to connect with them and invite them. In fact, not only invite them, but guide them to you, which starts with you. The whole practice is really empowering, even if nothing happens, because in order for it to work, you have to have a powerful meditative ability. And so there's no way not to do CE5 protocols and evolve, even if you're not successful. Like I wasn't very successful last night. One thing I'm learning about Florida is that if it rains and there isn't any wind and you go out at night, you get eaten alive. So I tried sitting on the beach and meditating, and I was just getting eaten alive. I mean, that's why I'm itching myself. I just got eaten alive by bugs. So I don't know if that's why I wasn't very successful, but I couldn't meditate because I was just getting bit. And it was very uncomfortable. So, did I answer your question? Who was asking the question? Thundra. So I think I've touched on it. Dennis Gilmore question. So Dennis, welcome to the channel. I don't know how long you've been on the channel. It's great that you're asking questions. I do strongly recommend that you put at least as much effort into researching what I teach, spending time, watching the videos, doing the practices. There's, I don't even know how many thousands of hours of videos are on here. Spend time with the material. And many of your questions will be answered. So having said that, let me read your question. You say, Darth Vader's positive action was to die in opposition to the Emperor. Is this a prophecy? Will some Darth Vader globalists rebel against the Emperor and mankind and soon be free? So this is the second time. Basically, you're repeating the same question you've asked, which I've already answered. So this tells me that this is an agenda of yours. You have it's coming across codependent. So why aren't you talking about yourself? Why are you talking about other people? And why do you have such a strong emotional need for other people to be saved? Do you see the connection between you and Christianity? Do you see the connection between Christianity and destructive codependence? These are codependent questions. You asked it once, perfectly good question. I answered it. It wasn't good enough for you. Now you have to ask me a second time. You're basically asking me, will Jesus come and save the dark people? Why are you so focused on them changing? Why aren't you focused on your changing? If you want them, let me answer this. Here's a practical way of solving it. If you want the dark force people to shift, you have to shift first. So get your ass into meditation, start meditating, start doing the Qigong. If you haven't signed up for the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, sign up and do those practices. For whatever reason you don't want to spend the measly amount of money to do that, then do the free Qigong practices on the channel. Now more than ever, I am more dogmatic about this than I ever have been. It is the actions that will change you, not the beliefs, not the feelings. You want to evolve? Do the work. To become a meditator means you have to put action into it. You have to do the Qigong. You have to do the mantra. You have to do the meditation. It's a discipline that you have to do every day, and that will shift you. It's not what religion has told you, which is if you think about this enough, if you read the Bible enough, that's what Christianity tells you. If you just read the Bible, you need to read your Bible every day. Reading the Bible just puts a bunch of totally irrational concepts into your brain that then you feel guilted into believing. This isn't an intellectual process anymore. The next phase of reality will be the actual meditative, energetic reality, which is an action. We live in a universe of action, not a universe of thought. So, anyway, answer your question. You keep asking me that question. Number one, I have no control over them. I have no responsibility over them. Whether they choose to evolve or not is completely up to them. It's none of my business. I can have compassion for them, which you've already heard that I do. They are in a tremendous amount of pain, but it's their own doing. And we give them power. Our codependence is we pay our taxes and we, salute the flag, and we buy into the whole thing. That's our codependence. We have to placate the narcissists. I just had to throw a bunch of money back at, the IRS, and it's like, I don't want them having my money. There's all kinds of, how many billions of dollars was spent in, worldwide measures over the past 2 years. I didn't approve of that. I didn't want my money going towards any of that, but they put a gun to my head. It's not, if I don't pay my taxes, I could end up in jail. So we're living in a narcissistic, controlling, abusive empire. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. James Moffat, honest feeling, I'm bursting to speak and share, but I know I can't at this time. I'm joyful to watch you awaken to this aspect of reality. I don't know what that means, but yeah. Zodiac Kila. Question. Are souls and every soul exist on another dimension that is like black and white to matter beings alive in vessel like human animals? So, Zodiac Killa, first off, my first feeling about your question is that it's not really a question. You're stating an opinion, and that's perfectly fine. You're really asking me to co-sign your opinion. So that's not really what I believe a question to be. A question is there's something you don't understand that you think I might have the answer to. I might not. But what's really going on, Zodiac Killer, is this sounds like you want to share that opinion. And I encourage you to go do that. Go do that on your channel. But to be honest, I don't even understand it. The other thing is, when somebody's in their head when it's too complicated, and your question is too complicated. It's not simple enough, which means that you're not necessarily attached to or aware of what the emotional undercurrent is. Because all questions have an emotional need behind it. We don't ask questions unless we have an emotional attachment. That's why Dennis Gilmore, I pointed out to him, he has an emotional attachment to free the dark force people. So there's some strong emotional thing going on which brings up that question for him. So I don't know what your emotional thing is, what you're trying to accomplish. And I can't get past the static of all of the intellectualization going on. So you have another question down here. Question, does Saturn give you a false ego of gaining power mentally? So welcome to the channel. I strongly recommend that you spend time watching my videos on Vedic astrology so you can understand what Saturn is. What you just described is the opposite of Saturn. But this is what people are told. This is the modern neo-Gnostic, the neo-Gnostic exit the matrix idea, which is we live in a soul trap, and that's Saturn, and then people don't understand Saturn, and they make Saturn out to be this bad, evil reptilian. Blah, 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 blah. Saturn is not false ego. Saturn is your best friend. Saturn is the judge. And if you're in court for a traffic violation and the judge is your grandfather and he likes you and he knows you as a hardworking good person, he's going to get you off. He's going to give you a break. But if you come into court with an attitude, the judge is going to throw the book at you. And he's going to throw the book at you because you're a danger to yourself and other people. So Saturn, if you are not following your true path, which is false ego, false humility, when you are not following your true path, Saturn will sit on your head. And the more that you fight to do your own self-destructive thing, which is against your own betterment, Saturn gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And you experience that as pain and difficulty, challenge, disease. But all Saturn does is Saturn is a mirror. And Saturn will ruthlessly reflect back onto you your own self-destructiveness, but your false ego will tell you otherwise. So I encourage you to go look up the phrase psychological projection, because your question is psychological projection. You are projecting onto Saturn your own unconscious, meaning you're not aware of it, your own unconscious desire to indulge in your false ego. Because if you didn't, you would know that Saturn's only concern is to help you follow your true path, which will bring you prosperity, happiness, and freedom. Saturn is the guy who says, this is the wrong path. If you keep going down the wrong path, I'm going to make things challenging for you. And the only thing that's challenging is I'm just going to keep throwing back to you your own garbage. You're going to think I'm doing it, but I'm not. I'm just reflecting back to you your own garbage, which then you can sit in and deal with. Or you can drop that and follow your own path. And when people have Saturn that are working to help them, which they experience as difficulty and challenge and negative karma, when they stop fighting and they say, okay, I surrender. What should I do? Saturn says, that's all I was waiting for. Okay, here's how you can rebuild your life again. Go do this, go do that. You're going to have to pay your debts, but I'm going to be there with you and I'm going to help you. So your question, again, I'm responding because if you've been on my channel long enough, you would know my take on Saturn. And I can tell when somebody's, ingested the mainstream spiritual, even the alternative spiritual understanding that Saturn is some ego, evil, blah, blah, blah. So you say, Does Saturn give you a false ego of gaining power mentally, money, resources? Saturn, why would Saturn be interested in power and money? Where did you get that? This shows a basic misunderstanding of Saturn. Rahu, the north node of the moon, that's what you're talking about. Saturn brings equality. We are entering the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is the 11th sign, and it is a Saturn sign. Saturn, those of you who want to see the elites brought down, and you want to see the average person brought up, and you want to see world equality, and the age of Aquarius is about every single person becoming their own guru and simultaneously working cooperatively with their neighbor. It's the ultimate, ideal. It's the ideal society. And it is Saturn that brings this about. The age of Aquarius is when Saturn finally brings the elites down and lifts up the oppressed. So why are you giving Saturn such a hard time? He's trying to give you everything that you want. The exact opposite of what you just talked about. He has no interest in power, money. He has no interest in any of that. Saturn gets a really bad rap, and it's because it's a projection. Again, people project their own narcissistic, we all have it, by the way. You're not the only person that has issues. We all have our own narcissistic issues, and we project it onto the deities. We project it onto Saturn. Saturn gets a bad rap. People equate Saturn with Jehovah. And that's too bad. Saturn is going to be the first person to smash and destroy the whole idea of Jehovah. Okay, what else? Does Jupiter give you a healthy ego? So again, this is also superficial. People make this misunderstanding because again, you're looking at the superficial understanding of Jupiter versus Saturn. If we're talking chart, you're asking, is Saturn ego bad ego and is Jupiter healthy ego? It completely depends on your chart. Jupiter could give you a totally narcissistic ego. And Saturn can give you the fairest, most wonderful personality. It all depends on, how these things are operating in your chart. So I encourage you to go beyond the superficial. Go into the more mature understanding. There's no such thing as a good planet or a bad planet. It's just, how they are in your chart and your reaction to it. What else? Jedi Black Knight question. Will the 3-1s method clear out the unconscious mind? Yeah, it will not only clear it out. My experience of it when I do the 3-1s meditation, which by the way, those of you, I gave it out for free. Never mind. You can look for it yourself. Put the effort to find it. I've already taught it, the 3-1s meditation. The 3-1s meditation will not only clear out your unconscious, but it reduces it. It's like it gets rid of all of the, all of the static on your hard drive. It reduces your hard drive. It empties all of the, all of the unused programs. So it not only clears out the unconscious, it wipes it clean. Eventually it's trying to get the unconscious to zero, so that the unconscious mind is the conscious mind. As Jung said that you must make the unconscious conscious, otherwise life events will happen to you and you will think it is God's will. In other words, you'll think that you're this tiny being and God is doing things to you. And what's really going on is you're doing it to yourself, your own unconscious. You're manifesting it, your own unconscious desires, because you're not aware of them. So the 3-1s actually is a great way to become, totally aware. And so I think the ideal is to get to the point where there is no unconscious. That if we were to become fully conscious of our power, like I said, we would be gods. What else? James Moffat, honest feeling. I am moved to tears watching this. Thank you. Oh, I'm glad that was helpful. Agent of the Universe question. I've been doing the unifying the three ones and energy surrounds me buzzing. Is this common? Yes, that is normal. Afroman 316 question. Does the sorcery of the Maoshan celestial energy powerful enough to transform masculine into feminine anatomy and vice versa without physical plastic surgery? Well, I mean, that's a huge question, and it makes me want to know why you're asking that. Are you somebody that is wanting to transform your physical body? Here's what I can tell you. Kuan Yin. You know the goddess Kuan Yin. If you're not familiar with her, look her up. Kuan Yin. Kwannyin. Kuan Yin. The goddess Kuan Yin in Taoist understanding is that Kuan Yin was originally a man. And through his meditative power, by focusing on the yin aspect, he transformed himself into a woman, but not completely. And what's interesting is that, you know, people worship Kuan Yin as a woman, and indeed she is. But when they hear Kuan Yin speak, Kuan Yin has a very deep masculine voice. And I remember telling somebody this. I believe she was Chinese, so she worshipped Kuan Yin, not knowing any of this about Kuan Yin. And I told her the story, and she said, "Oh my God, that's true. Kuan Yin spoke, and she had such a deep masculine voice." So you're asking me, can the Maoshan do that? I think it seems to be possible. I can't I don't know anybody that's done it, and I certainly have not done anything like that. So I can't give you any personal experience, but by all means, give it a try. Guy Home, honest feeling. I feel amazed because as I tried to work through the resistance I felt after my ET contact, it appeared today and told me, "Thank you for creating me. Now I feel like his father." Okay, that's very interesting. I have no idea what that means, but it's not for me, it's for you. Dennis Gilmore question. Could Saturn then be said to act like the globalists? So Dennis, are you not paying attention? Did you not hear anything I said? Did you not hear me say that we're entering into the age of Aquarius, and that Aquarius is a sign of Saturn, and Saturn is the one who brings the elites low and brings up the masses and gives them equality? How could Saturn be doing that and act like the globalist? If what you mean by globalist is the Aquarian understanding, I mean, the word globalism doesn't mean anything other than global. So when we get to the point where we have world peace, that would be globalist peace. Right now, the word globalist refers to globalist corporations, which are all about money, and they're trying to globalize their control of people. So it's the opposite of the Aquarian age. So I mean, yes, we could use the word globalist in a technically accurate definition, but the modern definition of globalism has nothing to do with Saturn. And I encourage everybody to drop all of these old ideas about Saturn and the Saturn moon matrix and, you know, all of that stuff. I encourage you guys to drop all of that. That's complete. At best, it's superficial, and at worst, it's complete misunderstanding. Again, people's projection. People projecting their own fear and their own, you know, you're only as trapped as you are internally. You know, if you're internally free, then whatever the globalists do doesn't affect you. You're literally bulletproof. If you're free internally, nothing externally can do anything to you. And if you are being damaged and oppressed, it means that you're engaged on some level. And that's for you to figure out. So let's see. Agent of the universe, honest feeling. I've been having intense feelings while practicing the yin-yang hands and unifying the 3 ones. Yes, it's a very intense practice. Alexander Barr question: do you think the unconscious has anything to do with Achilles' notion of the gods being jellies? You're going to have to rewrite that because I don't know what you're trying to say. Alexander Barr question: please write the word question in all caps. Do you think the unconscious has anything to do with the gods being jealous of humans, so to speak? Do I think that the unconscious... Why would the unconscious have anything to do with the notion of the gods being jealous of humans? So, I've said things to that effect. So if you're quoting me, the gods wish they were human. So there's a distinction between the word envious and the word jealous. It may be an arbitrary distinction, but nevertheless it works. So the word jealous means you see your neighbor, and your neighbor has a really hot model wife, and you want her. So you go and you get him arrested and deported so that you can have his wife. You're jealous. Envious, on the other hand, is you see your neighbor and he has a really hot model wife, and you go, wow, I want one of those too. I'm envious of that guy. Instead of trying to take your neighbor's wife, you go and get your own hot model wife. So when the gods say that they're jealous of humans, they're envious, it's not because they want to be humans. It means that they're envious in a positive way, like, good for you. I'm envious of you that you get to go and be human. I wish I could do that. When I have in my books and in my videos, I talk about the possibility that Odin wasn't even human. Odin was a dwarf who, through his spiritual practice, surpassed humans and became a god and surpassed the gods. So that's the idea behind that. But energetically speaking, the gods are the opposite of the unconscious. On the thunder wheel, when you look at, in the northeast, you have the gods, and in the southwest, you have the underworld, which is the unconscious. So the gods are the opposite. Gods are pure consciousness. They're immature because they're so pure. They're newly born stars, and they're so perfect, they see everything in black and white terms, but they're pure consciousness. That's why they have so much judgment for anything that's not purely conscious, because they've never experienced unconsciousness, so they don't have any empathy for that. So I don't know what you mean by that, but maybe that answers your question. Saeed. Okay, that's not a question. Good to see you, Saeed. I hope you're doing okay. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. Earlier, I was extremely agitated and aggravated due to an interaction with a student. Welcome to the club, my friend. I deal with that on a frequent basis. Alexander Barr, please write the word question in all caps so that I won't miss it. Does the yin-yang symbol of balance have anything to do with Kuan Yin embodying the balance of the divine masculine and the feminine? Of course. You'd have to really go deep into the Kuan Yin to understand it. But yes, of course. I mean, if we assume that that's true, then that energy had to balance itself out in some way. But that's a very deep subject. I don't have the ability at the moment to go deep into that. Zodiac Killer question: do planets affect you on a soul level? Of course. a brain control. Basically, how do planets affect you really on what kind of scientific level? So Zodiac Killa. Are you new to my channel? I completely invite you to watch how many hundreds of hours of videos I have on astrology and planets. You're asking a huge question. I mean, obviously, look at that question. Do you think I could answer that in 30 seconds? No, I don't have that ability. But it's a great question, but it means when somebody has these big, huge questions that, would take hours to answer, it means that you're very interested and there's something in you that you really need to understand and experience and work through. And so more study would be helpful. Saeed, you know the rules. You got to write question in all caps. Shows me that you pay attention and put effort. Remember the two most important things in life? Pay attention and put effort. You should know better. Question. It's not a question really. Well, then what are you doing asking? I only want to hear your questions and your feelings. Let me read it. Okay, so that's an honest feeling. You just want to say thank you. I helped you a lot in your journey. You disappeared. You've been gone for a long time. I remember wondering about you a while back, and where did he go? Why did he disappear? I'm glad to see you're doing well, and I'm happy to know that I've been helpful on your journey. So thanks for letting me know. Okay, Alexander Barr. Yes, it does. I guess I answered his question. Dennis Gilmore, question. Is it possible for a human to become fully conscious as flesh and blood? Yes. We haven't got there yet. That's where we're headed. That's what the age of the human being is. We are on our way to doing that. Total, utter revolution. Total transformation and revolution on all levels. Absolute destruction. So, when I've got a link in the description and in the beginning of this live stream, and you will hear this Hopi wisdom keeper talk about the coming third shaking of the world. We have prophecies everywhere, even in Ragnarok in my ethnic tradition. But there's pretty much everybody has the Mayan calendar, all of that, the end of the world. So I believe that there is a possibility for a destructive, horrific, cataclysmic end of the world, which I think has to happen if human beings do not get out of this age of narcissism. In other words, if we don't stop being codependent and give the elites what they want, if we don't stop doing that, and if we don't make meditation our prime motive, it's not just about being good. It's not just about being kind. Those are results. We need to shift our essence, and that's only going to come through energy work and meditation, in my opinion. So I believe that if we do not shift, the human race will come to a cataclysmic end. I don't think there's any way around that. But if we shift, the elites will lose all of their control, because the only control a narcissist has over you is their ability to get you into codependent fear, where you seek their approval. There's a great phrase, I love it, called virtue signaling. Right? People, when they talk about getting they talk about how they've got it. They've got number 3 and number 4, and that's called virtue signaling. Christians do it all the time when they talk about, I just love my Lord Jesus so much. They're virtue signaling. They are signaling to other people how good they are. Look at how good I am. And that is a codependent way of also acknowledging the narcissist. The narcissist has said, you will love me. And you say, yes, narcissist daddy, I love you. Do you see how much I love our narcissist daddy? I'm a good boy. It's a way of telling other people, how, you are connecting to the narcissist and sucking up to them. I don't know where I was going with that either. Anyway, we got to stop giving them, we got to stop placating them. And the way we do that is we've got to choose not to do what they tell us in ways that I can't talk about on YouTube or they'll take my channel down. It's just, they are completely, this is a thing we don't realize. They're completely dependent on our obedience. If we all chose not to obey, they'd have no power. They couldn't do a thing. There might be some resistance at first. There might even be some violent resistance at first. But they wouldn't be able to keep it up. I mean, look at what Gandhi achieved in India through nonviolence. He just refused. He said, "I refuse," and people went along with him. So when we start to make in other words, meditation. When you make meditation your priority, when you make energy work your priority, the shifting of your mind into a meditative state. That's your goal. I want to achieve meditative full conscious awareness in this lifetime. If everybody on earth did that, there would be no elites. They would be gone. So is it possible for a human to become fully conscious as flesh and blood? Yes, that is where we're headed. That is a good way of describing the age of the human. Zodiac Killer question, do other alien races just not want to contact us? What do you mean? I mean, you're making assumptions. What are these other alien races you're talking about? I don't know why you're asking this question. We have no idea how many alien races there are. We have no idea how many of them are at a conscious level and are interstellar. And the way I understand it, which I believe is in order to be an interstellar civilization, you have to be an advanced spiritual practitioner, because you wouldn't be able to go millions of light years if you didn't have a very powerful meditative mind, because it's your meditative mind that powers the craft. It's not the physical technology. Physical technology is dependent on the meditative power of the pilot. And I mean, I don't know where you're coming up. I mean, I've had this much experience, in my opinion, but I have no idea what race they were. I have no idea if there was more than one. I have no clue. You've seen this picture. If not, go. By the way, everybody should go watch Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Fifth Kind. It's free on YouTube. It's free on Amazon. Go watch it. And you see these picture. These are all different alien beings. None of them look like the stereotypical gray, which I think are the only ones that the human government has been able to replicate or make robots of. Which is, by the way, what happens whenever you hear a story of somebody being abducted by aliens. They're being abducted by human-crafted robots that look like grays. So grays are on, if they are, which I believe they probably are, grays being one aliens, they're only one of who knows how many millions. I mean, if you're doing CE5, these are all actual pictures, which, by the way, as I understand it, if the people there did not see these beings with their naked eye, there was a light or something like that, or just a feeling, like the one on the right, somebody just had a feeling that somebody was there, so they took a picture of it. But when they were standing there, they didn't see anything. So again, that's completely different from what you've been shown in the movies, where these grays show up and they're these physical beings. These are all physical beings. The one on the left, has this big pyramid head, which I can't even find. I think I can see his eyes and nose and I don't know what else I can see, but he's got this huge triangle head. And the one in the middle looks kind of like a human with some weird hat or helmet on. And the one on the right is apparently just a manifestation of their thought form that they projected, astrally. So, I mean, it's just, just looking at it and talking about it brings up all kinds of interesting feelings inside of me. So again, your question has an assumption that, how can we possibly know how many there are? How can we possibly know? They haven't openly revealed themselves to us in any official way. There's no way for us to know. So that was your question. Do other alien races just not want to contact us? I mean, I don't know why you're asking that question. There's a lot of negativity. I don't know what you mean by that. Where are you even coming up with the idea that they don't want to contact you? I don't understand where this is coming from. Or is it a dimensional issue like our bodies cannot see them? So I think I'm kind of answering your question, but the reason why, as I understand it, if I get to your question, the reason why there isn't open contact is because, again, watch those movies by Dr. Stephen Greer. We, human beings, not me personally, but human beings, the deep state, the dark force rulers of the world, have achieved everything that you see in Star Trek and Star Wars and beyond. We have energy weapons, we have lasers and phasers and photon torpedoes, and we have all of that. And so the reason why there isn't open alien, why number one, it's not their planet. So there's a prime directive, again, just like Star Trek. There's a prime directive. They don't go and openly reveal themselves to planets that are evolving because it's not helpful. And we have to ask them. It's against, it's bad boundaries to just show up on somebody's doorstep. It would be bad boundaries for one of my neighbors to just open the door and walk into my house without me inviting them. So there's one, they have good boundaries. Number two, it is a threat to them. Roswell isn't an accident. We shot them down. And there's been many, I don't know how many, perhaps hundreds of craft have been shot down by our Star Wars type weapons. And so it's very dangerous for them to come. So the only way that they can come and get past the military defenses is, by camouflaging themselves and projecting themselves and things like that. So they're not revealing themselves for that reason. And also, it would be really frightening. Look, if that guy on the left showed up physically, unless he was really giving off a really comforting, healing vibe, which I understand he has the ability to do. But if he were to just show up physically and you saw that, you would flip out. It's so different. We're not used to it. If you want to understand what it would be like, just to get the basic understanding of what it would be like, I don't know the link, but there's a video on YouTube of some filmmakers going into, where is that? New Guinea. So the two places in the world left where there are still uncontacted tribes in the world is New Guinea and the Amazon. There are still people in the Amazon that have not had direct contact with modern people. And there are still tribes deep in New Guinea, that have never physically met moderners. In the 70s, some film crew went in there specifically to contact some indigenous New Guinea tribes people that had never seen Westerners before. And it's on YouTube. If you look around, you'll find it. And you see this, this French guy. So he's white, and he's dressed in modern Western clothes, and he's got a camera crew with him. And you see this encounter where this total Stone Age tribesman. I mean, he's got, it looks like he come out of the Flintstones. He's got this, this stone axe and bows and arrows, and he is absolutely freaked out by seeing this white person, and he's like he just touching the guy. The guy's holding his hand out, and he's scared to death, and he's at any moment going to turn and run away. And he's talking to a human being, and he's that flipped out because he's never seen anything like that before. And the camera, you see the guy walk up, he's got his stone axe, and he's about to take off the cameraman's head every 10 seconds because he's so afraid. He has no idea what this box is. And then the guy, it was a really destructive thing to do, but the guy pulled out matches and started lighting matches and gave him sugar and salt, which were all really stupid things to do. But, that's what it would be like if these beings were to appear, just out of nowhere. It would completely, totally flip us out in ways we can't even begin, because that's just, again, human beings. And those are human beings that are separated, culturally by a few thousand years. What happens when even if we saw human beings 50,000 years in the future, it would be so traumatic for us. But that's what it's like, to have deep, really powerful interactions with these beings is dealing with something that's 50,000 years, 100,000 years, 1 billion years for all we know. So I think there's a lot of truth in your question. Is it that we just can't see them, et cetera, et cetera? I think there's a mixture of a lot of different answers there. Dennis Gilmore, question. I tried CE5 protocol last night and had a few hours of mildly better positive mindset, but it left. Okay, well, they had other things to do. They had places to go, I got a schedule. Oh, I got another appointment. Oh, I'm getting another CE5 call. Hey, it was good to meet you. I got to go. Of course, it's got to end at some point. They are people, after all. They got stuff to do. Can continued practice keep this always on me? I don't know. Practice and find out. I mean, I don't know. I'm just barely learning about this myself. What was some details of my experience? My experience was probably a lot like yours. I had a few things that I couldn't explain. And there was a couple of things that maybe I could explain. I don't know what was going on. Since I'm a newbie at it, my experience has been, it's sort of like when you get a shot, right? It's like it takes time. It takes time for it to have an effect on you. And so it's having a slow effect on me. In fact, I've decided that I'm going to become a pescatarian. Right now I'm only eating chicken and fish, but I'm going to stop eating chicken because they're too conscious. I can't tolerate the thought of eating animals that, have, consciousness. And the only reason I'm going to eat fish is because I don't have the physical ability to create all of the nutrients that I need. I'm still an animal, so I still need, there's still nutrients that I can't get without eating some kind of physical flesh. Maybe if I could just start eating, grubs or something. But that's been one of the experiences I've had as a result of it. Another experience I've had as a result, maybe you're noticing it, is that I feel strongly that I need to be more tolerant and compassionate. And, you know, that I think is a direct result of that. So I don't know what else. I think, you know, one of the things I think is that their deepest work is on the unconscious level. I believe that they are at such an advanced stage that they're not unconscious, that they're fully conscious. And that as a result of that, when they interact with you, your major transformative experience is going to be on an unconscious level. The conscious mind will only probably register maybe 10%. The other thing is you're there and you can't see them physically. It doesn't mean that there isn't a part of you, and having a huge, like almost mind-shifting experience even saying this, but I think the other 90% of you can see them, can feel them, can interact with them. It's just the 10% of your conscious brain, you know, the 10% of you, which is your conscious brain, can't. So, we'll see. Saeed, question. Even if we see alien life, do you believe in our current time that we have not seen the true potential of the human mind? I don't know why it's an either or. Why'd you take, oh, you just got rid of your question. I guess I answered your question. Well, no other questions? Is that it? We all done? Okay. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for showing up and for helping me to talk through my thoughts and my feelings, which is one of the things that I do here, and you allow me to do that. If you want to participate in helping me get this message out, number one, subscribe, like, comment, spend time on the channel, watch, you know, really use this as a library resource. And of course, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. That's the most advanced teaching I can give you publicly, other than the 5-element teaching. And the whole point of that teaching is to do exactly what we're talking about. Bring about the age of the fully conscious meditative human being. My goal is to have 200 subscribers here. Just 200. To start with. But if you want to support the channel in other ways, go to courses.thunderwizard.com. If you want the most advanced stuff that I can offer you, go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com. And is that it? I think that's it. Honest feeling, guy home. Now I am at peace because I know it's a projection I created with my mind and it is in another dimension. No need to worry. Okay, I don't know what you're referring to, but sounds like you came to a good decision. Okay, that's it. No other questions. I guess we're done. All right. So thanks, guys. I will see you all next time. Yeah, it's an interesting time. So I'll try and remember. And if I don't do it, remind me. But I will try and remember to make a video on why I believe that the Hopi prophecy only has 4 of the 5 elements, that there was only 4 elemental clans and not 5. Also, remind me to talk about my belief on the Hopi prophecy concerning Pahana. Those I think are pretty interesting subjects, and I have some interesting thoughts about that which I'd like to share with you. Okay, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you all very soon. Take good care of yourselves.